financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Today's topic is tax problems can be solved. Welcome, Jenny Lingle. I know I have to give you first billing.
Absolutely.
These are the rules.
It is. Ladies first. Good to see you, Ken. Good to be here.
Jenny's our tax manager at Thav Gross. She's going to talk with us today about how tax problems can be solved. Jeffrey Kirshner, nice to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Brian, as always.
A pleasure. Let's rock and roll through this one.
You know, Jenny, we talk about tax problems all the time, and you're our tax guru on the show, but we never really talk about what it is you do, because people think of a tax lawyer, and tax has tax planning issues like, corporate fancy schmancy merger acquisition types things. Mm-hmm. But really what you're doing is, your expertise is in tax collection defense. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, I think so.
Right, and that's where I think there's two areas that comes into play. One is someone gets audited, and they come in and the government comes in and says, we've looked at your return, we think you owe us an extra $75,000. You didn't report all your income and you overstated your expenses. So you cover that type of problem,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And then the next problem is people owe taxes. They could owe taxes as a result of the audit. They could owe taxes because they owned a business and didn't pay their payroll taxes. It could be just the everyday Joe who has filed his returns but didn't pay his taxes. And it can be the everyday Joe who hasn't gotten around to filing his return or paying his taxes. Fair statement?
Yes.
So those are the things that when we talk about tax collection defense, that we're really focusing on.
Well, there's a lot. It's oversimplifying it a little bit. There's a lot of people that come in that are being assessed tax that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they're determined to be a corporate officer. Maybe there's Michigan state tax that's been assessed against them that's been computed under ME numbers and EIN numbers. There's my clients that can afford to pay but shouldn't have to pay. Those that can't afford to pay and won't pay, and those that can afford to pay but we want to figure out the best way to pay it or separate it out over the years so that they feel the least pain when they're paying
How
it
many
back.
come in that want to pay?
I don't think anybody ever wants to pay.
Is it un-American to want to pay taxes?
No, it is.
I have a lot of people come in and they say that they want to pay, but they want to pay in a manner that's going to make sense for them. For example, sometimes I'll have the IRS say, well, we're going to seize your principal residence, which is happening now because you owe us X amount of dollars and you owe your home free and clear. If we can figure out another way to pay them, either refinancing, paying a little bit, doing a streamline, working out some other payment terms, sometimes extending the statute, there's all sorts of different things that we can do, which is why it's always hard for me to pinpoint when someone says, what can you do for me? I can't give a global response. That's why I do free consultations. Yes, because everybody's case is different and everybody has different little things and nuances.
On that issue of when you want to pay, I guess I always look at it with myself and I say, I do feel as though I should pay taxes. We have a economy and a country that requires you to contribute to cover the costs of running the country.
Well, we get services from our
military
government,
services
sure.
and everything else, local and state. But I always sit there saying, I would like to be the person that decides what's the fair amount of taxes I should pay based upon my income, rather than having it determined based upon the tax code.
And based on your usage also.
That's my struggle every year.
I'll go even further. I don't have a problem with paying taxes that I'm legally obligated to pay, but boy, would I like to be able to say where the money goes.
Yeah, that's another. I would like to. I'm an advocate of. I would be willing to pay greater tax if we provided college education to our children. I would condition the college education to then require the student that receives the education to either do military or community service for a period of time as a payback, but I believe in doing it, and I would be comfortable with paying some more taxes to accomplish that on a personal level, just as my beliefs. But how do you make that thing happen, and then how do you get other people to go along with you?
Typical,
that's tax policy.
A typical person coming in to see you, Jenny, is probably the type of person that, you know, during the financial crisis, or they suffered their own financial crisis, loss of income to the household. And so what I see at least a lot is somebody says, I'm just going to change my withholdings a little bit, you know, from 0 to 99 so that I can have more money coming into the household so I can eat. And then when my wife or my husband gets back to work, we'll fix it then. And it's unfortunately a slippery slope, and they go, whoom, slide down. Is that can we help that type of person?
Absolutely. There are all sorts of reasons why people get into tax debt. So a lot of people, they come in initially somewhat embarrassed, and this is what I do, and I see it, and I understand how it happens, I understand why it happens, and I see that the tax code and collections have become so complicated that it causes people to bury their head in the sand even more. So it's something that most people, after they meet with me and I go through all their options, free consultation about an hour, very little documentation is needed at that point depending on their situation, they're all very happy and relieved after they've left and said, you know, I wish I would have done this sooner because I wasn't aware of all of these different avenues that were available to me.
People think it's an impossible situation and they're embarrassed by it, so they don't even want to. They have a hesitancy even to talk to somebody about it. Then they come in and talk to you, and then they're mad at themselves because they're saying, "Why didn't I come see you 5 years ago? The problem would already be gone now, and it's that solvable."
Well,
that's
speaking
one of
of
the things
impossible
that goes on.
situations, let me give you an example. Tell me if it's impossible. Guy hasn't filed his tax returns in 15 years. Impossible? Is he going to jail?
I think we might need to answer that after the break.
Okay, that's a big question, though, isn't it? And
Well,
it's not
you've
uncommon
got-
to see people that haven't filed tax returns for many, many years because they bury their head in the sand. After 1 year, it just escalates.
Yeah, it's very easy for that problem to arise. It's not that big of a deal. You file the returns. As far as criminal goes, fair statement to say if they're not coming after you and you voluntarily comply, then it's never a problem.
You'll see a summons first.
So if no summons and they just come in, at that point you file the returns, you take care of it. We'll be back after the break.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirschner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP.
All right, so we were talking about the person who hasn't filed returns for 15 years. All right, first of all, the first problem they always say is, I don't have the records.
Right, I see this all the time. So typically the person who hasn't filed in 15 years, if the IRS hasn't filed for you, doing what they call a substitute for return, typically I will go online through e-services, or I will contact the practitioner priority service, which is not collections, and say, I have a taxpayer, what years are you missing? Right now, records are only going back with the IRS about 7 years. So typically what happens is they send me what they call wage and income transcripts. So any income that was reported under your Social Security number gets reported to the IRS, and they keep track of that. So I start there with my clients. Now I have some clients who are self-employed. Take a truck driver, that's an easy one, for example. And they'll say, well, I don't have any of my receipts. And we'll say, well, we need to do a good faith attempt to get that return prepared. So what we might do is estimate fuel expenses, tolls, some of the things that we know that they have year after year, and file that return.
So many people think, I don't have the records, I can't file the return. We can estimate.
Absolutely. I take the opposite position with the IRS. If you don't have the receipts as a truck driver and you don't take the return, I think it's a fraudulent return. And the opposite way, because then your income is significantly higher than it really is. And we all know we use our tax returns to get mortgages, to get loans, and do things like that. So I think we have an obligation to do a good faith attempt.
So the IRS on audit might say, we're denying all your deductions because you don't have the receipts. But at the same token, if you have a truck, you have to have expenses. How did the truck go from point A to point B without gas and without oil? So on that basis, and if you fight it far enough, you get your way.
Significantly, if we fight it far enough and we can back into it, I've used MapQuest, I've used gas prices during the year, for example, in that truck driver, we'll get a pretty good percentage of it if what we've taken makes sense.
All right, so returns, that problem can be solved, and they don't get prosecuted unless they're going through summons and
Right, it's a long process. Typically, if you haven't filed returns and it's going to turn into criminal, you'll have a summons issued that says you have to appear before the IRS on such date. If you don't appear, they issue what they call last chance letter, and then after that, it gets sent to an attorney. So there is a period of time.
2 points on this. Point number one is, in all likelihood, it's not going to be an issue. If you haven't filed returns, don't watch the show saying, oh my God, I'm going to get prosecuted. Come in, we'll get the returns filed and taken care of. The second point is, for the few people out there that get this thing called the last chance summons, by all means, when you get that, get in here right away, because that doesn't mean you're going to get prosecuted, but that means they're looking at you, and that means we need to jump on it and get a dialogue going and show compliance and calm the government down. The last thing that person wants to do is ignore it. That would be that would be the
if they've
biggest
taken the
mistake.
effort to issue summons,
They're
somebody is there's a file at someone's desk.
Yeah,
Right.
but that doesn't mean you're going down. That means it's serious and you need to react to it.
Quick story, I had a client ignore it. The U.S. Marshal was out at their house. They called me. I said, well, when the U.S. Marshal leaves, because they hadn't, entered and they didn't find my clients, I said, get in my office. They came in my office. We took about 3 hours going through some documentation. While they were still there, I faxed it to the revenue officer. She was happy with what I provided, and she said, I'm going to contact the attorney and have that canceled. So it was 3 hours in my office.
It's a solvable problem. You don't want to panic. People panic, and that's the worst possible thing to do. All right, what about news in the tax collection defense world? I know there's this new rule that you two have been telling me about, the real McCoy rule. Or the,
I like how you put that. It's the ridiculous McCoy rule.
Yeah, it's not the real McCoy rule. Here's the rule. To be deemed a valid tax return for purposes of dischargeability of taxes, the tax return must have been filed timely. That is, no later than the date the return is supposed to be filed. What are they talking about?
Okay, so in bankruptcy,
doesn't sound good.
There's a number of circuits throughout the country, and this law, the law is starting to shift. And in the court case that backs this all up is called McCoy. And in 3 of the circuits of the United States, we have a rule now that says if you filed your tax return late, even it's not dischargeable in bankruptcy. So,
Oh wait, I didn't know tax returns were dischargeable in bankruptcy.
well, tax returns are
or
dischargeable.
tax liabilities.
In this district, now you have to say.
In our circuit, yes, tax returns are dischargeable in bankruptcy as long as they came due at least 3 years ago, the return has been filed for at least 2 years, and you haven't been assessed in the last 8 months.
Now we're talking income taxes, not
Income
payroll
taxes, that's
right?
correct. Payroll taxes are not dischargeable.
That's like business. When you have a business and you don't pay in your employees' payroll taxes, that's not dischargeable.
So what we're seeing here is an interpretation of the bankruptcy code that 7 circuits in the United States deem to be incorrect, and 3
7?
Well, at the moment you can discharge.
Oh, 7
7 of the 10 circuits
are favorable to
are
us.
still favorable to discharging taxes, even if they're a day late, or a year late, or 5 years late. So this McCoy said, though, if it's 1 day late, it doesn't serve a tax purpose, and therefore it's not dischargeable in bankruptcy.
So basically what the McCoy case has done is they've gotten rid of the 3-year, 2-year, 240-day rule.
It's
Because
now just the 3-year,
240-day rule is what they've done. Now, I understood when the courts clarified and said a substitute for return, we used to discharge it if we filed it later and waited the 2 years. They did come back and say that doesn't meet the voluntary
Right.
compliance.
Nobody's going to understand. What are you talking about?
Okay, so a substitute
return?
for return is when the IRS prepares a return for you. Right now, that is not dischargeable in bankruptcy.
Under our circuit or any circuit,
Ever.
right? Okay.
We used to be able to do it if we had filed it after they filed for you, but they came back and some of the commentary on that said, well, you really didn't meet that voluntary rule because the only reason you ended up turning in your return is we did it for you.
So it doesn't count.
Right.
So that made that there was some rationality to that.
This
Okay.
does not make sense to me
Because it's changing the statute.
completely. I don't see how.
There will
So
a
you
eventually-
called
return
it, it's
filed
not the
one-
real McCoy rule, it's the
The
ridiculous
ridiculous
McCoy
McCoy
rule.
rule.
I would agree. Here's the big point, and we'll stay on it after the break, because it's complicated. What we're explaining is, filing your return on time is absolutely important, even if you don't have the money. We'll be back and we'll explain that.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Samasco Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Samasco Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem.
Time for announcements. Want to remind our viewers to listen to us Tuesdays 11:30 a.m. and Saturdays 7 a.m. for Law and Reality Live on Praise 102.7 FM. Then on Thursdays from 3 to 4 for Law and Reality Now on 9:10 a.m. Be sure and sign up for our monthly contest. Free $50 Visa gift card, Law and Reality hat, and copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. Just go to the websites, click on the link, and you can sign up for the free contest. We have a seminar coming up Wednesday, March 28th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Spring is the time to shed the debt, not trim it. This is our next debt relief seminar, and it focuses on how to preserve future income for you and your family, all the key methods we use to avoid debt, to eliminate it so that you can preserve future income, bankruptcy, solutions outside of bankruptcy. We're going to have a special segment from Jeff Kirschner talking about the basic elements of addressing a disability and a workers' compensation claim. Attendees get a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. Sign up at lawandreality.com, thavgross.com, or call 888-235-HELP. Also want to remind you, you're always free to come into Thav Gross for a free consultation. Just go to the websites, lawandreality.com or thavgross.com. Click on the particular area of interest that you have, and we'll arrange a free consult, or you can call 888-235-HELP. Also, go to the websites for the free reports. Free report on how to avoid foreclosure, Social Security by Pat Simasko, and business formations and loans and grants for small businesses in Michigan. Now back to the show.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirschner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
Okay, I want to make sense of this whole thing because it's complicated. What we were talking about is complicated if you're outside listening. It's complicated even with the fact that we know it. But the bottom line is this, is that if you don't file your return timely, in at least 3 circuits right now, you're potentially foreclosing your opportunity to discharge the tax liability in bankruptcy under the 3-year, 2-year, 240-day rule, which is a great thing. We use it all the time if you can fit within those parameters. But there's another issue. If you don't file your return on time, you get hit with a 25% penalty, 5% a month for 5 months. You increase your tax liability automatically by 25%.
Well, and then there's another penalty also. On top of that, you're talking about the non-filing penalty. You've also got the non-payment penalty.
Well, the non-payment penalty, if you don't have the money, you're going to get hit with that penalty anyway. But that's 0.5% per month, up to 25%. That takes 12 months. Only at 0.5% per month is 6%. That takes 4 years before you get to 25%.
The key is you have to file your tax returns on time, even if you owe money and can't afford to pay it. You should file them.
That's the biggest mistake people will say. I can't file. File, please.
Right. And when you say the key is you have to do it, it's even more than that. It's stupid not to. It doesn't hurt you at all. Everyone says, well, I don't have the money to pay the tax. If I don't file the return, they won't find me and I won't get all those notices. No, that's the thought process.
They're going to find you.
But more importantly,
right.
always going to owe the money. Whenever you file, you owe the money.
If you file the return we can deal with paying the taxes,
And
and you preserve your right to file bankruptcy if the situation is right.
So what we see is a lot of people will come in to see us where they've got tax liabilities year after year. And I just had a client recently that came in, they have a tax liability from 2000 through 2016. And so we are doing a bankruptcy for them. We're going to discharge everything from the year 2000 up through the year 2013's tax liability. 14, 15, and 16.
What do you do about that?
Those are going to survive, unfortunately. But here's a big difference. I can get rid of 85% of the tax, and I'm going to get rid of a whole bunch of other credit card debt and other liabilities. And we're actually utilizing the fact that they owe so much to the IRS to get them to qualify for bankruptcy. Because
the debt.
Because their non-consumer debt includes
Tax
IRS
liability.
debt, they actually qualify for a bankruptcy where they otherwise wouldn't.
Because
they
their
make too
income
much
is too
money.
high. All right, but what do you, so
we're going to get
you
rid of their tax
everything
debt.
except 14, 15, and 16?
Correct.
Can you help with that?
Absolutely. So what we do after that is we look at how much we have left. If it's between 50 and 100,000, we can do an 84-month payment. If it's under 50,000, we can do a 72-month payment. If they can't afford that, we can do a payment plan based on income and allowable expenses. We can also look at whether they qualify for an offer and compromise. So there's a whole list of items we're going to take a look at.
So, Brian, in your example, because they're qualifying because they're getting around the means test because they have more non-consumer debt than consumer debt, which is a nice way of still qualifying for Chapter 7, but their income's probably high enough that it might be a problem for an offer and compromise?
Actually, it turns out that in this specific situation, they're still qualifying for an offer and compromise. It's not your $500 offer and compromise, but it's going to be probably around $20,000 for their offer. They're going to save about $100,000 in tax liability under the offer on top of it. It's a manipulation of the law, utilizing things, the tools of financial crisis management together, allowing you to achieve the result you need, which is get out of debt and get a fresh start.
See, what's magic about it and what's important is it's not just the offer and compromise that you hear the tax companies on TV talking about. It's bankruptcy is getting rid of 2000 through 2013 in this example, like that, with proper planning. And then the offer and compromise takes care of 14, 15, and 16. And these are on people that are actually high income earners. So if you're in a low income earner, it's a lot easier to do an offer and compromise for a lot less money. That it's a question of making you fit within the right criteria. But the whole thing that's important is you need to address the issue, number one. What are you getting out of this show? Address the issue. Number two, file your returns timely, at least by the extension debt, to preserve your rights in the future. And come in and see us, and we'll take care of you. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality.